In this episode, of course, the test continues, but we really are centered and focused for the most part on Hisoka and just sort of his ruthlessness.
Hunter x Hunter, Episode 5, Hisoka is sneaky.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and prospective fellow hunters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesomely episodic, test-worthy tale of Hunter x Hunter 2011. Our last episode saw us with really the endurance test, at least the first portion of it, coming to an end, and the end of the episode was really kind of cool because you had Satotes, the examiner, who we assume is the examiner, talking about we're going into this the Swindler's Swamp, don't trust anybody, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden this guy appears and he's saying that he was beat up and and that Satotes is actually an imposter. Anyway, Hisoka, the magician guy, right, the ruthless dude, just finishes and ends it by going and does this attack where he whips his playing cards at both of them, and the imposter is killed, and Satotes, who is presumed to be now the real examiner, catches the cards, and then of course warns Hisoka, don't ever do that shit again or you're gonna be disqualified. It was very cool, though, the mind games that are being played here. So, anyway, that's how that episode left off, and that's where we pick up over here. There's a heavy fog over this Swindler's Swamp, and Satotes, goes and starts trucking off through the jungle again with his weird sort of alien-like run where he kind of kicks his legs out further than need be. And everybody's going to follow him. Now, we know that there's like 368, I want to say, participants left of the original 405, so the crowd got thinned out a little bit by that 80 or 90 kilometer run that they had to do, which is like, I don't know, like 50, 60 miles. It's insane. Anyway, so they got their few minutes of breathing, and then he's like, hey, stay close to me because, otherwise you probably won't come out of this alive. So everybody's kind of following him along through the swamp. And as things go, Killua and Gon kind of go and get separated from everybody else. A number of the different participants go and just start getting separated because they think that they're just following the people in front of them in the swamp, when in fact, there's all kinds of different things going on in the swamp. Like there's this one group that goes and they think they hear that Satotes going, come on, catch up, stay up. And it's actually a bird, they find out, that can mimic it can mimic human speech. They only find that out, though, as a bunch of them that were ahead of them fell over the edge of this like cliff with spikes on it, and they're laying there impaled. And then the second group is like, whoa, hold on a second, at the edge of the cliff. So there's some really neat stuff going on over here. And as different groups get broken off, like I said, Killua and Gon are kind of broken off into their own separate little group, and then so are Kurapika and as well as Liario, and they're kind of separated and off on their own. And there's several different groups that get broken off over here by the different kind of trials and tribulations and the beasts of this jungle. We see these cool looking like turtle slash brachiosaurus dinosaur things that are like eating some of the contestants and everything else. It's actually quite insane. That's what the Liario and Kurapika, that's what they kind of, the group that they're with, is fallen upon by these, and surrounded by these dinosaur-like turtle-looking things, Anyway, what winds up happening, though, with those two is they actually come upon, we see a number of different participants that kind of broke off and are following Hisoka the magician. They're like, hey, listen, the fog cover's thick enough right now. Let's take his ass out. They deem that he is too dangerous of a person, a contestant, to have amongst their peers, and they're going to take his ass out. And there's like 8 or 10 of them, right? So they go and they surround him, and they're like, you know what? You're going to go and you're never going to enter you're never going to apply to take the hunter exam again, and blah, 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 And Hisoka's like, well, that's fine. I plan on passing it this time anyway, so there'll be no need to take it again. And they're like, fool, we've already lost track of the examiner. There's no way, we've already all failed in this and that. So anyway, as they kind of all go to come at him and they've surrounded him or whatever, Hisoka just does this straight up, like, almost like ballet type move with just this fluid and just like spins and does like a 360 with his cards, and you just see this flash, and then all of a sudden everybody just falls, right, except for the one last guy. And the last guy, as he goes and turns to run or whatever, Hisoka goes and whips a card into the back of his head. So this dude is brutal. He's nasty. He's not very, very nice at all. We wind up actually getting Gon and Killua. There is there is a portion where it looks like they actually go and get swallowed up by this beast and wind up trying to get out of this thing and whatnot. All the dangers and perils, obviously. Some people are dropping, they're becoming unconscious. They show this butterfly that like makes people like get hypnotized and hallucinate, and there's people falling all over. So just all the different crazy, like I said, trials and tribulations of this particular, portion of, I guess, at the end of phase 1 of this examination. It's really brutal, really hardcore, and as a matter of fact, I think at the end of the episode, I think they said only 100 and maybe 140, 150 out of those 368 are still there. If even that, maybe it was only 40 or 50. I forget exactly. But anyway, the meat and potatoes of this whole episode, because this was really the Hisoka episode and kind of showing you his powers and showing you how brutally just evil that he can be, but at the same time, you almost got to like respect that power too, because nonetheless, what winds up happening is Kurapika and Liario wind up coming upon the kind of tail end of that thing where he takes out those 8 or 10 other prospective hunters, right? And then anyway, so they're standing there, and Hisoka's just like, oh, you want some of this too, And Kurapika's like, listen, he can realize, he acknowledges that they're not strong enough to beat him. This guy's way above their level, so he's just like, on the count of 3, or when I say we're gonna run in different directions. So they do. They go and they take off in different directions, and Hisoka's like, oh, okay, whatever, you ran, and haha, smart move, right? Well, Liario, the thick-headed son of a bitch that he is, but I think he also has some honor too, he comes back and he's like, you know what, I just can't leave. And I don't know if it's one of those things where he just couldn't leave, he couldn't turn down a fight, or if it was like a respect or honor thing. I think personally it was like I can't stand by and watch you just slaughter 10 other people and then just go and run off and pretend like it didn't happen. So anyway, he goes to come at Hisoka, and as he goes to nail him, Hisoka, of course, is just as a magician, this master of illusion and speed and everything else, and he just kind of gracefully moves out of the way. And pretty much that Liario's time is very short. He's not looking good. He's pretty much all going to be defeated, and Hisoka's going to do it without even breaking a sweat, And then I like it because all of a sudden, as Hisoka's got his attention turned on Liario, all of a sudden you just hear, and then and he just gets freaking blindsided, right? Gon came up and wound up coming up and seeing the tail and everything. He wanted to go back to find Liario and Kurapika, and he came upon them or whatever. He nails him in the face with the fishing pole, right? The end of his fishing pole where the ball and hook are or whatever. And Hisoka's just kind of like, oh, yeah, good hit, Hey, you got that one in there. So Gon goes to nail him again or whatever, and he winds up missing toys with him a little bit. Next thing you know, as Gon goes and does this cool move, this kind of smoke and mirrors move, where he goes and does this neat thing in front of him where it's kind of like this explosion or whatever, and then it appears behind him and he's going to nail him, and it's all in slow motion. Hisoka just goes, and I mean just grabs him, and he's got him by the throat, and he's just like, and Gon's just like, and this is, to me, this is the first time anyway, at least in the show that we've seen, that Gon has really faced this kind of like, man, my life is going to flash before my eyes. Like, I could die here. I'm in mortal danger, And it seems like he's truly terrified. Hisoka goes, and then after he almost chokes the life out of him, he just drops him. And then he's just like, okay, you passed. I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? You passed. And he goes and he picks up Liario, throws him over his shoulder, and he's like, yeah, you can find your way to the finish line, right? And Gon's just like, still like kind of freaked, Hisoka goes running off with him, but before he does, he gets a call on like this little walkie-talkie of his, and I don't know if it's if he's working with that Satotes, the examiner, like he was planted in there amongst them, or if he's working with like another contestant, or what the deal is, but somebody tells him, hey, we're at the finish line, you better get here soon. So he goes and takes off with Liario. But the whole, like, you pass thing, I don't know if that was like we passed his... Because Gon thinks it's like... what happens is Kurapika winds up coming up on him, and Gon explains what happens and everything else. And he's terrified because he almost lost his life. But Gon kind of comes to the conclusion, and I don't know if this is what it is or not. He says that he's kind of got his... Hisoka's got like his own way of sort of like gauging people's worthiness and testing them. Or maybe he's just mental and deranged, man, and just this crazy ass clown looking mother effer is just kind of playing examiner. I don't really know, but I do know that he's very powerful and definitely somebody that you'd rather have as an ally than an enemy. However, he seems like he's kind of a loose cannon as far as the way he works. So I don't know, man. I don't know if this guy's going to play into future roles as a major character or he's going to be an antagonist or what. But definitely very dangerous. So a cool episode nonetheless. We wind up seeing then Gon and Kurapika. They wind up running through the mist, and he can and Gon actually is able to, because of course they've broken off from everybody else now. How are you going to get through this Swindler Swamp? He can actually has heightened sense of smell and everything like that, and he can smell, he says, Liario's cologne from miles away. So he's able to track which way he went and what have you. So the episode ends up though with, of course, them finally getting there, and the examiner, and then you know, saying that I believe that this is going to be the end of phase 1 now, and that they're going to now move into phase 2. And as I said, it's a very low number of people. They've really thinned out the herd through Swindler Swamp, and most of these people, they're just straight up dead. I mean, maybe some of them are unconscious and were able to get up and get away, but a lot of the things that we saw, like the people falling and getting impaled on the spikes or getting eaten by the Brachiosaurus turtles, they're dead. They're gone, man. So it's really kind of neat because you get all these different tests, and I don't even really know much about the hunters and what they do, and I mean, why there's so many people that are drawn to taking this, you know, these tests that obviously you can lose your life, like, pretty easily, you know what I mean? Like, the majority of the people that started out just a couple hours ago are already thinned out. So very, very cool stuff, though. I'm really enjoying the series. My episode question, though, is for you, brothers and sisters. What are your thoughts so far on Hisoka, what we've seen of him? And then, of course, too, I kind of want to know what your thoughts are on that whole communication, the walkie-talkie thing, you know, and saying you passed. Is he just crazy and playing an examiner? Is he actually working with the examiners because he almost passed last year? And do you know what I mean? Is he kind of like, did they plant him in there to sort of like, you know, help weed out some of the weaker ones, or what, you know? Leave your answer to that question, though, in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching all y'all in the next one, Nation. If you enjoy any of my artwork and would like to see more, remember to follow me on Facebook and Twitter.